morning, Upper School. St. Patrick's Day. So before we get started, I would love it if we could all say happy birthday to Miss Reynolds because she's just a huge part of this year's speaker process. Awesome. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Miss Reynolds. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for everything that you do for us. All right, so we ask that you please silence your cell phones before the event to honor today's speakers. And our first speaker today is Sashi Levine. Sashi will be introduced by his dad, Fred Levine.
Sashi has many excellent traits. He's friendly, loyal, artistic, compassionate, a good cook, and he didn't tell me to say that. But one quality I emphatically can't handle is his procrastination. He is a master procrastinator, and it drives me nuts. Just as an example, when did I find out that I was introducing him today for a senior speech? Well, let's just say it wasn't an hour ago, but it wasn't much earlier. And this is after his mom and I asked him about a senior speech the last couple of months. If you heard Lucy's speech, you know sometimes Sashi's talking a lot can land him in the dog. It's one of those traits that can be either good or bad, depending on timing. My wife and I fondly remember, well, I'm not sure fondly is the correct term, but okay, fondly, that for years and years, starting in kindergarten, Sashi's report card from teacher, I mean every teacher, would say something like this. Quote, Sashi is a joy to have in class. He always participates and is very social. I hope that he can learn to channel his abundant talking to only productive times in the classroom. I look forward to seeing if he can do this in the future, end quote. Well, let me just say that perhaps he doesn't get into trouble talking all the time like he used to, but he still talks a lot. Now, his mom and I have often said that things could be worse, and extensive talking isn't such a bad thing. There are worse traits for sure. In fact, we often refer to Sashi as just an overall good kid. Well, he isn't a kid anymore, but he is still good and endearing. Now I'd like to introduce my son, Alexander Levine, or Sashi, as he is affectionately known, doing one of the things he does best, talking.
Hey guys. So, if anyone knows me, they know the stew. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the stew is an old storage room next to my garage, which with the help of my parents, I turned into a studio for music. Music has always been a huge part of my life. Whether I was listening to my mom's Bulgarian CDs or my dad's 70s hits, I was always doing something with music. Many of you know that I make beats. I am, and have been for a while, the guy who people come to when they want to make a song, whether it's a diss track, love song about someone's crush, or a freestyle. But I haven't always been the beat guy. Before I started making beats, I was constantly beatboxing. I recall in my early middle school days when I would attempt to woo new students in shadows with my beatboxing skills. In gym class, I remember beefing with Ezekiel Salama because he thought he was a better beatboxer than me. While I may have beat him in our beatboxing battles, I also managed to be far louder and more obnoxious than he was. So in truth, he was the real winner. Everyone goes through an annoying and cringy phase in middle school, but I was far more annoying and cringy than anyone else. Throughout middle school, I had soccer player haircuts with God knows how much hair gel. I had a 21 Pilots phase. I even spent my hard-earned money and time on a video game called FIFA. And there are countless other unbelievable things I did. But one that stuck with me throughout all of middle school was my beatboxing, or as disruptiveness. My love for beatboxing really helped me transition into my current producer career, but there were many steps I had to take before getting to the point I'm at today. In 7th grade, I got my first computer as a gift from my grandparents. First computer meant I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted. The internet was at the click of a button. But instead of gravitating towards computer games like many of my friends, I was instantly intrigued by GarageBand. GarageBand is a very basic and stock program that comes with a MacBook, and it is where I learned all of the basics of music production. GarageBand was also the first place that I made a full album, written, performed, and produced by me. I won't go into much detail on the songs in this album because middle school me was slightly vulgar, but this album was really where it all started. Last year, I revisited this album only to turn off my computer within seconds of hearing my high-pitched and squeaker, auto-tuned voice rapping about armpits and farts. This cringy album is now locked away in a safe with both a key and a combination lock on it, but I really appreciate what my early music has done to shape me into the person I am today. As my middle school days passed, I grew as a producer. When freshman year came around, I was greeted with new opportunities in the music industry. For one, I was able to find multiple talented artists who could rap on my beats. Tommy Fitzgerald and Michael Bush were two of the first people who ever rapped on my beats, and they both had some serious potential. Tommy even gave me my first producer stage name, the Lemon Boy. Many of you may remember the only beat I produced as the Lemon Boy. It was the instrumental to a song which Tommy wrote about his arch nemesis, who will go unnamed. I believe that this track is what really made me blow up. I even had an Instagram page named Lemon Boy Beats, which had nearly all the high school students following it. Although I believe that my Lemon Boy phase influenced me, I disliked being greeted throughout the halls by the upperclassmen as Lemon Boy Beats and not Sashi. As a producer and sometimes a rapper, I have learned that it is important to be original, but also to take inspiration from the greats. In Spanish class freshman year, I recall using my free time to analyze the production and lyrics of Lil Uzi Vert's Sanguine Paradise. With the help of Parker Adams and Miss Hawbaker, I was able to deconstruct the poetic lyrics. I even recall when Miss Hawbaker questioned what Lil Uzi Vert meant when he said, "Foreign girls and they're all 10s, I can't choose." That's a true story, by the way. Miss Hawbaker, I couldn't tell you what that means. Despite the fact that much of my musical knowledge and skill comes from my parents and my various teachers, I take a lot of inspiration from the music I listen to. There are many different genres of music that I've listened to over the years, and I can also produce a variety of genres as well. But my favorite to listen to and to produce is hip-hop. Whether it's Kendrick Lamar's deep and meaningful lyrics or Yeat's melodic mumbling, I listen to it and take inspiration from it. So, why did I choose to write my senior speech about my love for music? I could have simply just copy and pasted my supplement essay from the Common App or written a cliche speech about how you should enjoy your high school years. But I landed on this topic because without music, I wouldn't be the same person you all know. Over the course of my life, I've gone through many phases and hobbies, which would all stay with me for a while and then eventually leave. But music is one phase which I can say has been with me and will stay with me forever. I've spent countless hours with headphones on, listening and trying to perfect my sounds. This leads me to believe that anything you love, you should spend time doing, and overall just lose yourself in. Because eventually you will become an expert in that area, no matter what it is. I hope to one day be able to pursue a career in music, definitely not as a rapper or a singer, but possibly as a producer. But until then, you will most likely find me cooking up in the stew. Thank you.
Our second speaker today is Jim Riley. Jim will be introduced by his longtime babysitter, Debbie Hurst.
Good morning, everybody. Isn't it a beautiful day? Jim and I have been buddies for 18 and some odd days, 18 years and some odd days. Anyway, he's been our Buddha. When he was little, he looked like a little Buddha that we used to have. And then And then he had a friend named Doom Doom. Doom Doom was his best friend. Doom Doom went everywhere with him. Doom Doom disappeared one day when he left on an airplane, left in a taxi, or whatever. But anyway, we lost Doom Doom. And then he got Bear. But anyway, Jim is, I'm just so proud of him. He's my sweetheart. He's won my heart over, and I might cry, I don't know. But anyway, he's so smart. And when he was in the second grade, I quit helping him with homework because he was so smart. But anyway, I just love him. He's smart and funny. And he's always trying to scare me. But the thing is, after I've gotten older, he doesn't do it as bad, but I've gotten him a few times too. But anyway, I just want to introduce Jim Riley to you. He's my sweetheart.
Most people who know me know that I'm not a very creative person. So instead of coming up with my own idea for this speech, naturally I've decided to steal someone else's. A few weeks ago, someone gave a speech about being afraid of breaking rules. During that speech, all I could do was shake my head. While I too am often timid around authority, breaking the rules can occasionally lead to memorable scenarios. I may not be such an egregious offender of the rules as 6th grade Noah Auerbach, who set what must be a record of 30 points in a single quarter. I'm not 5th grade Easton Smith, who committed such crimes against music that Mrs. Smith dragged him out of the music room by his ear, calling him a clown. I'm not even 4th grade Tommy Fitzgerald, who was such a devious art student that Mrs. Roby had to resort to locking him in the kiln room. After my time occasionally gluing people to chairs at Bloom Elementary, I have mostly been able to avoid significant trouble during my 9 years here at Collegiate. However, away from home, it's been a bit easier to push the limits. The last time I was at my beloved summer camp in North Carolina, I was a CA, a counselor's assistant, sending some children on a scavenger hunt in which the reward was accidentally a box of cigarettes, or inadvertently giving a child permission to shoot an arrow at a live chicken. I was always an upstanding role model for the young men of Camp Carolina. But on the last night of the session, which for CAs involves some long-standing traditions and general chaos, I was up to no good. One game the CAs have played a few times throughout the session was Dining Hall Ball, a complex and intense game with many details that I do not have the time to delve into. So, as the last night finally wore down in the early hours of the morning, we decided to sneak up to the dining hall for one final game. However, we had a stop to make along the way. Throughout the month I had been there, there was one child who was simply insufferable. I will not go into all that he did that made him such a delinquent, but let's just say it involved cheating at Monopoly Deal, a tendency for arson, and a dozen eggs ending up where they shouldn't have. Now, there was only one way to get revenge on this racketeer, and it had to be done on the final night. I and a few friends, leaders of this nuisance of a boy, had spent the last few days building a contraption that could be placed over a door, and when such a door was opened, a bucket of milk would fall onto the unlucky victim. So, that night at his cabin, we carefully installed our mechanism, successfully lured him out in the middle of the night, and gleefully watched him get milked. While most of the 6 gallons ended up on this hooligan, we were also slightly hit, but it was definitely worth it. We then finally headed up to the dining hall to play our game, and felt extremely proud of ourselves for pulling off this retribution. When we were done, we discreetly placed back all the tables and chairs, knowing that we had been far too sly to have ever been caught. However, upon returning to our cabin, a counselor was waiting for us. Naturally, he asked us where we had been, So we, some sweaty, red-faced, out-of-breath 15-year-old boys who were covered in milk and returning to our cabin at 3 a.m. naturally responded with the bathroom. Now, most people have a motive when they commit a crime, and in this second case, my motive was once again revenge. When I was far younger, a neighbor of mine in Cape Cod had stolen my favorite Nerf gun. Now, this wasn't any Nerf gun. It was the renowned Nerf Halo Commander MA-40 Strike Mission Motorized Dart Blaster. You may ask why an adult would steal a child's Nerf gun. But the great nuances behind this theft and the significant beef between our families is too much to go into today. Let's just say it involves snapping turtles, Kanye West, a 3-foot-long hot dog, and technically treason against the United States of America. One day, I was left alone by my family as they went to see a movie I wasn't old enough for. That was their mistake. Left to my own devices, I made my way to the beach, where I saw some friends of mine who also despised this clown of a thief, and decided that the perfect revenge would be to take a joyride on his classy Elizabethan sailboat, which we knew was his pride and joy. We staked out his house until we saw his car leave at 2 o'clock for his daily round of golf, and there she was, the beauty herself. It was a gusty day, which prompted us to think, perfect for a sailboat ride. That was our mistake. We untied the sailboat and were immediately bonked by the swinging boom. As we began to drift into Gull Pond, we realized that untying the boat was the extent of what we knew about sailboats. I'll skip a bit and just say this story ends with us leaving the boat at the other side of the pond, running home, and never speaking of it again. Now, sometime between camp and the boat theft, I was 13 on a family trip to Mexico. We were staying in a small coastal town with only one main beach. The first time we went to this beach, I noticed a man who offered paragliding rides. This very legitimate-looking person would clip you into his very legitimate-looking paraglider and get in his boat and drive you around while you sailed a few hundred feet above the water. All this for the low, low price of $5 American. It's a good deal. I immediately knew I had to do it. However, there was one problem. My dad, being responsible, told me there was no way I was getting on that thing. At first, I thought this was the end, because I neither had $5 nor my parents' permission. But a few days later, I had some money, and it was time to paraglide. One day, as my family were laying by the pool and distracted, I seized my opportunity and made my way down to the beach. I was reassured that this operation was a good idea when I saw the man fixing a hole in the glider with duct tape. Satisfied that this was a safe and risk-free endeavor, I was ready to fly. The man handed me my carabiner that would tether me to my vessel, and off I went. I was thoroughly enjoying my ride and the sense of independence I had gained. I reached in my pocket, and there it was, the carabiner that was supposed to be clipping me in. I looked around in fear as I realized my hands were the only thing holding me to the paraglider. I was almost back to the beach when this foray became even more of a disaster. There was my dad, frantically waving his arms at me and looking as if he were about to faint. I froze, immediately fearing the consequences that would come from such a rebellious act. So, as I came parallel to the beach, I was supposed to pull down on the right side of the glider to come down, but I was too frozen with fear. Instead of landing on the beach, I floated into a forest that I had been previously warned was filled with deadly bugs, Venus flytraps, and quicksand. As I floated to the ground and seemingly impending doom, I saw my dad running toward me. I thankfully landed safely, but my parents were furious, and so was the paragliding man. But I managed to let the fight be between him and my dad, while I slinked away back to the hotel to plan my next escapade. Now, for the final story, let's return home. I was not always as comfortable and confident in front of crowds as I am now, so when it came time to write our 7th grade defining moment speech in middle school, I committed perhaps my most egregious offense as a collegiate student. Unsure of what to write about, and terrified that I would embarrass myself in front of my classmates with a lackluster topic, I resorted to fabrication. While the story I told that day was loosely based in reality, I took a great number of liberties. I talked about a day with my grandmother in New Orleans, which has happened, but this particular day that I discussed has not. To put it bluntly, my speech that day was a total lie. I regretfully collected my compliments from my teachers and parents who witnessed the speech, and my anxiety about having a bad speech was quelled, but at the cost of my honor. Even my parents, up until a minute or two ago, never knew that my defining moment was a lie. I was almost caught when I mentioned in my story that Café Du Monde in New Orleans was closed. After the speech, my dad was skeptical, as Café Du Monde is never closed. But I played it off and successfully hid this lie for 5 years, until now. So, this is usually the part of the speech where one would recognize their past actions as a mistake. And while they were humorous, they would not be repeated, because the speaker has matured and grown. However, I've done it again, because every story I have just told is a lie. Once again, while some were loosely based in fact, I have recommitted my sins of 5 years ago and sacrificed integrity for entertainment, because one of those is certainly more important than the other. To those that may look down on me for lying through my teeth for my entire senior speech, I profusely apologize. But for those who enjoyed it, well, it's just more fun this way, isn't it?
Our final speaker today is William Cunningham. William will be introduced by his mentor, Marnix Warren.
Mentor is a bit of a strong word. I'm very thankful for the previous speaker to really set up this farce that I'm about to give you guys, because I don't even know who I'm introducing today. So you see, I'm Marnix Warren, older brother of Mark Warren, the little demon sitting in the front row there. And I'm not here to introduce him, so you might wonder, why are you talking about this William Cunningham guy? Well, you see, I'm actually here to introduce the punk that he leaked my phone number to 4 years ago. So you see, back in 2018, I began receiving mysterious texts from an unnamed prankster who almost knew my full name, but not quite. I assume this is your fault, Mark. My name isn't Faulkner. That's my other brother's middle name, which you should know. So for years, I was left oblivious. But I was a little amused as these semi-regular, unprompted, and unwanted check-ins became a little bit better punctuated, so thank you, collegiate teachers, more eloquent, and better put together. So just better writing quality all around. And it seemed a fitting culmination of his authorship when, I think about 2 weeks ago, I received a text from this mysterious prankster admitting who he was, and almost like a persuasive letter asking me to come speak today. So here I am, genuinely shocked and I guess a little honored to be introducing not the self-described scrappy 12-year-old from my inbox. I don't think the math there works out. He should have been 14, but maybe he's 16 now, I don't know. But the eloquent, ever-brazen young man who had the courage to ask me up here after all these years. So ladies and gentlemen, my unsolicited pen pal from collegiate, I guess, and fellow William, in fact, that's my actual middle name, William Cunningham.
It's nice meeting you too, Marnix. For those of you that don't know me out there, my name is William Cunningham, also known as the co-founder, co-secretary, co-treasurer, co-manager, co-director, and member of Ping Pong Club. Throughout my high school career, I've always been a bit abnormal, whether it be hanging out in Stairwell C, asking for 5 hot dogs on hot dog day and lunch, or being late to school every day despite living 800 feet away. It is clear that something is wrong with me. I'm the individual who pushes the envelope beyond standard convention. The individual, when posed with the question, would you rather have your father or a stranger introduce you for your senior speech, who puts the stranger in a heartbeat? The individual who randomly roasts his friends without any good reason. Sashi, you're awful at making beats. Today, I have a few stories I'd like to share about some peculiar predicaments throughout my life and idiosyncratic quirks that make up the mess of my life. It is safe to say that I was a train wreck in middle school. If any of you associated with me during this period, I apologize. For starters, my friends and I are convinced that I could give the current Guinness World Record holder, Isaac Johnson, a serious run for his money for largest mouth gape. After all, it was not uncommon to find middle school William entire fist into his mouth during lunch as a large crowd of naysayers videotaped and watched with stunned eyes. I can't do it. It wasn't until my orthodontist decided to install a wretched Herbst appliance that blocks me from doing this now to correct my overbite. This Herbst severely hindered my ability to gape. My now regular mouth took away all my mojo, and with it, my reputation as the coolest kid in middle school. I became so enraged at my orthodontist that I literally tried to rip out my Herbst with a screwdriver. I would do whatever it took to gape again. Just one more gape, I thought to myself as I sat alone at lunch. When the screwdriver didn't work, I decided that I still needed to do something to spite my orthodontist. Soon, I thought of the perfect remedy. I was to deliberately not brush my teeth to enrage my orthodontist. That did not go well. When people came up to me during this period, they would usually cup their nose because of how bad my sardine barbecue breath chip breath smelled. I distinctly remember my orthodontist lecturing me on a metaphor he created while cleaning my mouth, and that my mouth was his office, and how his office was in complete shambles and disarray because of how bad my hygiene was. Although I succeeded in getting my revenge short term, I did not in the long run. I received a cavity and was also docked several good hygiene points on my patient gift card. I'm not sure which was worse, missing out on a $20 Target gift card or the verbal onslaught I faced from my parents for the appalling dentistry surcharge. As I entered high school, I found out that each collegiate student was required to complete a minimum of 2 years in the fine arts program. At first, I considered it instrumental. Then I remembered how my instrumental teacher had given me a point for fitting the entire scroll of my viola into my mouth. I apologize, Olivia Mello. I know you are a big fan of violas. For you math buffs out there, that's a whopping 12 centimeters, or 128 millimeters. Hashtag, yes, I'm a senior in pre-calculus. Despite my illustrious mouth-gaping talent, it did not change the fact that my instrumental playing abilities were horrific. As a result, I opted to become a theater kid. Over the years, theater has taught me a lot. If there was one thing that I would like to talk about from my experience, it is the all-important concept of the magic if. If any of you have taken theater, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The official definition of the magic if was invented by theater guru Stanislavski. Even though I didn't fully understand what it meant, Stanislavski's magic if became my go-to answer for any question in class. My teacher would engage in dialogue with me. William, what do you think you could have done better with your acting? I responded, well, I could have employed the magic if, as any actor would. William, why are you constantly late to class every day? Well, I could potentially rehearse my use of the magic if. William, is everything going okay at home? Magic if. William, how are you feeling today? Magic if. William, who do you think is going to win March Madness? Magic if. I also learned the 5 core elements of comedy in theater class. One element that really stuck with me, though, was the manipulation of time and tempo. With my mastery of the magic if and core elements of comedy, I managed to scrape by without academic probation my freshman year. That's a win. In all seriousness, the whimsical nature and camaraderie that theater brought into my life taught me that being myself was okay. I like to believe that theater single-handedly saved my personality from becoming another boring high schooler. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you, theater. In 10th grade, I was scheduled for my mandatory sports physical. On this unfaithful day during my sophomore year, I was diagnosed with hyperhidrosis, aka excessive sweating disorder. Let me set the scene for what it's like for an individual with my condition. It's cooling. It's a reasonably temperate fall day with a high of 70 degrees. For most people, this is the perfect fall weather. For me, it's an absolute nightmare. I felt it was likely to be one of my last shirts in my wardrobe, a white cotton t-shirt. There's nothing like the wretched cotton tee. By the time I get in the car, park at my friend's house, and walk in the door, my armpits are like Niagara Falls. And I'm drenched from head to toe in sweat, not even being nervous about anything. It's ridiculous. While going to my friends' hangouts was bad enough, I soon dealt with much worse situations. When my anxiety came into the picture, it was over. For prom last year, I got nervous about getting ready to take a picture with my date. The dam that was holding Niagara Falls had fallen. Sweat gushed out of my underarms as I was rendered helpless. Thanks to my trusty suit, I narrowly avoided this embarrassment of a lifetime. But little did my date know that I was sweating like an absolute animal under my jacket. And I am right now. In fact, during the prom after party, you could literally see every inch of my shirt had been covered in sweat. There was also the time when I was at Derby last year and quickly began losing my bankroll race by race. Granted, I'd forgotten to apply my sweat ointment, so I went into the bathroom after losing a colossal amount of money. I was again drenched. Just take last week, for example. In 40-degree weather at the collegiate lacrosse game, I began to sweat through my sweatshirt. It has gotten so bad that my friends have created a list of things that they think I will do at prom this year. The list is little things such as, will William forget a corsage for his date? Will he wear a joke suit? Will he rip his pants? Or will he sweat through his jacket? Reese, whatever happens at prom this year, I apologize in advance. To this day, even with my sweat, I still quiver at the sight of a lightly colored shirt and or hoodie. If any of you in the audience suffers from this wretched condition, I have 2 pearls of wisdom to offer you. 1, you can seek me at any time for emotional solace or therapy, because I know what it's like. And 2, if you are feeling self-conscious, don't be, because it's through our insecurities that we grow the most. So, as I ruminate on the magic if concept I learned as a shy 10th grader, I think about how I've made it my new mantra as a senior, taking on one day at a time, challenging myself to not exclusively think what if, but act on the outrageous, out-of-the-box ideas that circulate in my head. This careful approach I've learned to adapt over the years has served me well, so that I'm very comfortable letting myself be me. Whether it be enraging my orthodontist, trolling my theater teacher, or sweating through all layers of clothing, it's just who I am. Thank you.
Those were hilarious. Let's give our 3 gentlemen speakers one more round beautiful people, we're right up at the end of our time. One quick announcement, if you are a senior lifer, meet on the playground in your uniform for a final